What is macroplastic and how is it affecting the ecosystem? Macroplastics are large fragments of plastic, typically over 5 mm in size, which are found in the land as well as marine ecosystem, mostly because of man-made menace. Land-based macroplastic is considered one of the major sources of marine plastic debris. Now the question arises that why is there a need of microplastic assessment? Marine litter consists of items that have been deliberately discarded, unintentionally lost, or transported by winds and rivers into seas and on beaches. Marine litter consists of macroplastic, which degrades with time into microplastic due to different processes, which leads to threatening of food safety and quality, human health, coastal tourism, and even contributes to climate change. Plastic pollution is the most widespread problem affecting the marine environment. Over 300 million tons of plastic are produced every year for use in a wide variety of applications, and at least 8 million tons of plastic end up in our oceans every year and make up 80% of all marine debris from surface waters to deep sea. And further, marine species ingest or are entangled by these plastic debris, which causes severe injuries and deaths. Macroplastic assessment is necessary to categorize different types of products and their materials, so that proper countermeasures can be taken for reusing, recycling, or disposing of these plastic debris and minimize the social and environmental impacts. How is the macroplastic assessment done? This methodology gave the guidance on how the macroplastic assessment is to be done. Let's take a case that a particular city needs to assess the amount of macroplastic waste generation. The following steps need to be followed. 3 teams are to be organized with different tasks assigned. The first, survey team, second, cleanup team, third, documentation and photography team. Each team will be assigned with different tasks. The survey team is relied on for identifying the hotspots within the city where cleanup activity can be organized for the assessment. Secondary data and GIS mapping is to be used to identify the hotspot, which has further been rechecked by doing ground truthing. The identified site is to be consulted with the local government officer in charge of waste management and experts to finalize the cleanup location. The cleanup team will consist of 3 sub-teams, namely collection team, segregation team, and visual inspection team. The entire team will be preparing all the material or equipment required during the cleanup activity. Here is a list of the materials and equipments which are helpful during the activity. Hand gloves, safety boots and masks, a measuring tape, pens, clipboards in forms of recording the data, ground sheets to spread the collected materials on the ground, to sort and to take photos, scales of different capacities, for example, one to measure from 1 gram and another heavy-duty one that can measure up to 50 kgs. A handheld one is relatively useful but may not be ideal. A medical box for minor injuries, guidelines to organize a low plastic outdoor event, a broom and a dustpan because the small pieces are most difficult to collect and count, mid-size bags or containers to store the light items. A few do's and don'ts to be considered are: wear your protective gear when handling the waste. Beware of sharp presents in the waste. Don't pick them directly with your bare hands. Segregate the plastic from the mixed waste. The plastic product should be crushed to avoid reuse. Collect the waste till the bag is 3/4 full. Do not drag the bags and lift bags carefully with the support of 3 to 4 volunteers per bag. Use a broom and dustpan to pick up waste and clean the area. Avoid needle or prick injuries. Be careful regarding staples on the labels from being torn or separate from the bag. Use permanent markers for coding or labeling bags. Prefer to tar weight and weighing segregated and sorted plastics on electronic balance. Be cautious while weighing with spring balance, such as to not injure hands. Avoid overcrowding tarpaulin areas. Wash hands well after cleanup and use hand sanitizer before taking refreshments. A few don'ts to keep in mind: do not reuse plastic products. Do not mix plastic with other waste. Do not burn plastic waste. Do not spill waste. Do not walk into slush or wet soil, and wear proper shoes that can grip the soil or the ground surface. Do not vigorously dust plastics or cloth or waste. being collected to control dust from becoming airborne during the process of cleanup. Collection teams, say of 8 to 10 persons, will be collecting the waste from the demarcated area in the collection bags which are labelled before use. And each collected bag will be separately weighed. These bags, which will be further segregated by the segregation team as per the categories listed in the trash data sheet. These segregated waste will again be weighed separately and a rough count is to be made for each category of waste. The entire data is to be recorded properly for analysis and sharing of findings. This activity will help in assessing the type and material of the product. Also, this entire cleanup activity will be inspected by a visual inspection team. The team will be coordinating each task from collection, weighing of the trash, segregation, quantification, and handing over of the collected trash to the local government for final disposal. This activity will help in assessing the type and material of the product. Also, this assessment helps define the prominent plastic waste category generated in the city, percentage of composition of plastic in the mixed waste, and what is the density of plastic in per square meter of the area. This tutorial helps to understand what macroplastic and how macroplastic is affecting our ecosystem, as plastic is being a major contributor to marine litter. This tutorial also briefs why macroplastic assessment is necessary to minimize its social and environmental impacts. Further, brief standard operating procedure for the cleanup activity is explained that is to be used for macroplastic assessment that reflected on aspects of demarcation of boundary for cleanup area, wearing of personal protective equipment, collection of mixed waste, filling in gunny bags, labeling of gunny bags, segregation of plastic waste, weighing of waste, categorizing the plastic waste collected, etc.